everyone, and welcome to our family STEAM project for the month of July. And this experiment is called the Monster Science Lab. So Miss Pam and I have planned out some fun things for you and your family to do at home. And it is an activity, so we welcome all members of the family to participate. It is geared more towards elementary aged kids because there are some measurements and things like that are a little bit more in tune for older kids, but definitely have all members of the family welcome to join. So today we are going to be doing two experiments. So the first one is called Monster Slime. So I'm sure if you've come to any of our library programs before, you've seen or made some of the slime, really fun slime that Mr. Ryan has made. So we're going to make a really simple version of that slime, and all the ingredients are going to be in a bag that you can pick up at the library. So I've got that bag right here. So starting Monday, July 13th, yep, that's the right date. Starting Monday, July 13th, you can pick up these kits while supplies last. And then it has everything you need to do the monster slime, and then also the wiggle worms experiment, which is the second part of our experiment today. All right, there are a couple of other things that you'll need, just household items that you'll probably be able to find in your kitchen. So I'll go over those and then we'll get started. All right, so first you've got your bag. Inside your bag you have a little instruction sheet, which I'm going to follow to kind of explain to you. So included in your bag at the top, it says we have 2 bottles of shampoo. Okay, so they're not big bottles that you might use in your bathroom, but you might find these if you go on a trip and stay in a hotel. So here's little bitty bottles of shampoo. Let me find the other one. Here it is. All right, so 2 bottles of shampoo, 1.5 cups of cornstarch. Now that one was a little tricky. I had to do some maneuvering to get it in the bag. So it is in this big cup. It's this white powder. It should be labeled cornstarch when you get it, and it's ready for you. And then also, as a bonus, if you want to do this, so this is the part that makes it kind of monstery, we have googly eyes for you to use as well. So let me grab my googly eyes. All right, so I just have about 4 of them. May or may not be able to see them, but you can use these in your slime if you like. Okay, so there are also some additional materials that you can use, like food coloring. So food coloring is super easy to use in slime. You just drop in a few extra drops of it, and it changes the color of your slime. So it's really fun. It's kind of hard to transport, which is why I didn't put it in our kit today. If you don't have food coloring, you can also use eyeshadow from your mom's makeup. That'll give it kind of a shimmer, but definitely ask her before you do that. If you don't have that, you can also use watercolor paint or tempera paint. So that'll also color it a little bit. So any of those will work if you don't have food coloring. All right, so the next thing that you will definitely need is a mixing bowl to mix up your slime. Okay, and then 1/4 cup of water, which I have here, and then something to stir everything with. So you can use a spoon. I'm using this little spatula thing because I like it. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing, and we're gonna look at our handy dandy directions here. The first thing is we're gonna take both shampoo bottles and we're gonna mix them with our food coloring or our paint or whatever we're going to use to color it. So this is kind of like a, if you've ever baked or done anything in the kitchen with your family, making funny sounds, you want to try to mix your wet ingredients together. So that's what we're doing here. So I've got that one done. Got 1 thing of shampoo. Okay, it's kind of making funny sounds, isn't it? Okay, we've got it all out. All right. So that's what we're doing here. We are putting the food coloring, because it is liquid, with our liquid shampoo. Now it doesn't look like very much because we're kind of making a small amount of slime. Now what I'm gonna do is, I'm trying to show it to you here. I just wanna add maybe, I think I added about 4 or 5 drops right there. You don't wanna add too many just because, depending on the color that you want. So this one is a neon lime. So if I want it to be super dark, I can add lots of colors, lots of drops. Or if I want it to be kind of light, leave it the way it is. All right, the next part is adding the cornstarch and stirring it. Now, the first time I made this, I made a mistake in putting too much cornstarch and it kind of liquefied the slime. So I'm gonna be careful this time, and I would advise you to do the same. Just kind of shake it in there gently. It doesn't say this on the instructions, but go ahead and start mixing it up. And you may not need all the cornstarch, and that's okay. All right, so you can probably see what's happening now. It is turning into kind of a gooey type thing here, and it already looks really slimy, and that's definitely the shampoo doing the job. And it smells really good. That's a benefit of using shampoo. I've got a cat trying to figure out what I'm doing. All right, let's keep using it. And again, I'm just gonna keep kind of gently using this cornstarch. Now, at this point, I know I'm gonna add a cup of water. So it's too liquidy, right? And I've not used all my cornstarch. So I want to use more of it. Yeah, just be sure you're adding it one at a time so that it has a chance, so the liquid has a chance to form with the dry ingredients. Yeah, so like this, I kind of got to get it mixed up together. All right. That is looking much better. I do think I want to add a little bit more. And then we'll see if we need to add more cornstarch. Yeah. So this is a fun time to talk about how different mixtures change when you add other stuff to them. So this all started out as what? We had shampoo, it's a liquid, and then we have this cornstarch, which is kind of a powdery substance. But when you put them together, it kind of looks like something you might make if you're baking a little bit. Maybe a little bit like cookie dough. Texture is definitely a little bit different. Okay, so it's getting kind of chalky. So I'm gonna stop with cornstarch for right now. And the next part is adding, and I wanna stress to add it slowly because I also messed that up the first time. So we have our 4th cup of water. Make sure it is cold water. So I'm going to add it slowly, and just a little drop. Okay, so as I'm doing that, it's getting more liquidy, it's getting kind of squishy. Oh yeah, it's looking good. All right, I'll get some more because we want it to feel kind of slimy. Now you may not use all the water, you may not use all the cornstarch, and that is okay. You want to get it to the right texture for what you have. And if you find, uh-oh, I've added too much water, like it looks like I may need a little bit more cornstarch, you can do that. That is the beauty of slime. It's kind of different. Everyone's turns out a little bit different unless you've got some really specific special ingredients. Since this one is pretty basic, there's only 2-3 real ingredients, it's not going to be as hands-on or as specific as the other ones you may have done before. Okay, so it's looking pretty good to me right now. Okay, it's It's kind of slippery and slimy, and when I move it, it kind of stays there. Okay, so that's a pretty good texture. So what I want to do now is I'm gonna knead it with my hands, and then at this point, if you want to add your little googly eyes, this is a good point to do that. I'm gonna just throw them in here and get this little guy off the table. There we go. All right, so your hands are definitely gonna get messy. All right. I'm gonna pull it out, pull most of mine out so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Oh man. Yeah, this is pretty good. And so with this one, you'll see it has a slight green tint, and I use, like I said, a neon green color, and it is not, it's a light green, which is kind of what I wanted. Okay, so it is slimy, slippery, it's moving around. So this is right, this is the right texture that we want. So also, as you're doing this, so you may be making this along with me, or you may be watching this and thinking, okay, I'm gonna do it on my own, and then go forward. So watch my video first and then make your own. So notice that I did not use all of my water, nor did I use all of my cornstarch, okay? So, but I still got a good slimy texture in this bowl, okay? So that is Monster Slime. Pretty easy, huh? All right, so I'm gonna get cleaned up, and then we're gonna move on to wiggle worms. So stay tuned. All right, guys, I'm back. I've cleaned my hands off. I had slime all over them, and I've cleared off the ingredients that we used for our monster slime, because now we're gonna move on. You just flip your little handy dandy instruction sheet over. We're gonna move on to wiggle worms, okay? So this one is more of an experiment. Slime is always an experiment, but it's also something fun you can play with. So the wiggle worms is really fun to watch, I think. All right, so like we started with the last time, we're gonna look at our instruction sheet on what's included in our bag, okay? So for this one, we have 3 gummy worms. I've got 3 gummy worms in a bag here. And I have 3 tablespoons of baking soda. All right, so that's what's in your bag. You'll also need the following materials, which you should have in your kitchen at home, okay? So we need 1 cup of warm water, which I have right here. Get my water bottle out of the way, guys. Sorry about that. Next, we need white vinegar, okay? So white vinegar is usually in the kitchen. I would ask your parents about it. I've got it in this little mason jar thing here. Okay, and then you need a knife. So this is the part where I would say that mom, dad, grandma, whatever adult is doing this experiment with you, this is where they come in using a knife. Okay, and I brought a cutting board just because it's easier to cut on a cutting board. And then next we need 2 clear glasses or cups, okay? So my vinegar is already in a clear glass. So that's one of my clear glasses. And then here is another one, another clear glass that's empty right now. Okay, and then the last thing that we need is some kind of stirring spoon to mix up our mixture once we get in the experiment. So I'm just using a regular spoon because I'm just mixing in a cup. So it's not like a slime where I need something a little bit more intense. Okay, so if you've got all these materials, you are ready to start this experiment with me. All right, so the first thing we need is for the adults to cut the gummy worms into 4ths, lengthwise. Okay, so this is a tricky part. It's gonna be kind of hard to see it. I don't do a great job of this. It's not gonna be perfect, but as long as you're cutting off pieces of the gummy worm to make it skinnier, that is what really matters. This one is really sticky. This gummy worm is super sticky. All right, so I might have to like pull off pieces, and that's okay too. It's not it's not perfect. I watched a video on some people that were doing this, and I don't know how they got it to come off because, yeah, there we go. All right, so here's a little piece of gummy worm, and I basically want to cut it lengthwise. So I'm cutting it, making it skinnier than it is. Okay. All right, and you're gonna repeat and do that with the next two. You can also use scissors. I used scissors the first time I tried this experiment and it worked out just fine. All right, so now we have our gummy worms cut lengthwise. All right, so here's what they look like. This one, it just looks a lot skinnier, and then I've got little pieces of it that came off the side. That's totally fine. They don't have to be perfect in length. You just wanna make it skinnier than it was before. All right, so once you cut them, and this is again, something the adults will do, then we need the kids to take 1 cup of warm water. So you can measure that out with a measuring cup and put it in a clear glass. So I'm gonna put it in this jar. Okay, so it's warm water. Now I wanna take my 3 tablespoons baking soda and I'm going to dump it in here. You can dump it in all at once, that's fine. Okay, so it looks kind of cloudy. Can't see through it anymore, can you? All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is take our spoon and stir it. So get that baking soda mixed in real good with our clear water. Okay, perfect. So let's see what the next thing is on our list. Now we are going to add the gummy worms to the baking soda mixture and let it sit for 15 minutes, okay? So I'm gonna stick them in here. You put them all in at once. You wanna make sure that they get down, that they're not sticking up out of the baking soda mixture, okay? So they should look like this. There may be some baking soda on the bottom. That's okay. It's kind of hard to get it mixed up, but if you need to stir it, keep it to help it get absorbed, that's okay too. It's naturally going to do that, okay? All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put on the timer on my kitchen stove for 15 minutes, and then we will come back in 15, okay? All right, that's my timer. So, I'm gonna hit cancel on that, and then we're gonna move on to our next step. All right, so looking at our instruction sheet, we have let our gummy worm sit for 15 minutes, and now we need to fill another clear glass with vinegar, and be sure it is white vinegar. So, I already did that, but if you have white vinegar in a jar, you might just want to pour it into a glass. It doesn't matter what size. Really, it can work in any type. I will say the fuller the glass is, the more you'll be able to see the experiment. Okay, so I have my glass filled with vinegar, got my baking soda mixture with my gummy worms. So the next step, Says after 15 minutes, which it has been now, place the worms in the vinegar and see what happens. All right, so you can reach in using your hand if you want, or like I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna use a spoon and gonna start putting the worms in, and you should start seeing some weird stuff. Oh, look at that one. He went all the way up and back again. Cool. All right, now once I get all of these out, I'm gonna move it closer for you to see. So as you're pulling your worms out of the baking soda, they are slimy, they are gross, which is part of the creepy aspect of this science experiment. All right, here's a big one. Let's see what it does. Now notice when you put them in, some of them go down, they start moving around. Like this one is kind of dancing at the bottom. And then they go all the way up to the top, and then they go back down again. You'll also see in the top of your vinegar, you'll see that the bubbles are rising. So I've got one, well, when I move it, it moves with me. I've got one that's still dancing. Here it is, it's going all the way up to the top. All right, let me get the last thing out here. One more worm. And we'll see what it does. So you can actually hear it. Here's one on the side that's kind of trying to get up there. You can hear the bubbles popping and releasing on the surface. All right, so what do you think is going on here? If you've ever done any kind of baking soda and vinegar experiments, this will not be new to you. But let me explain the science behind it, just so you know why these gummy worms are reacting so differently. Yeah, see there's some here that are still sticking up and then moving down. All right, so when you add the worms that have been soaked in baking soda, the acid in the vinegar reacts with the bicarbonate in the baking soda. So acids and base, when they combine, the result is carbon dioxide bubbles, which is what we see in our little experiment here. So the bubbles are coming up to the top. I'm still getting a lot of bubbles. Oh, there's another piece. There's another worm coming up to the top. The longer it goes on, the fewer bubbles there will be. Okay, so let me explain how that works. So the gas bubbles form on the gummy worm, and as the gas bubbles rise to the surface, they pull the gummy worm up with it because they've got the baking soda on them. And so that makes the worms wiggle and dance and move around, which is fun. So as the gas bubbles burst, the worm will fall back down until enough bubbles form to pull it back up again. So you can also look at your gummy worms, and look at that one, he's going up. They are coated in these bubbles. So once they get enough bubbles, they're gonna come up to the top, all right? So the bubbles will continue to form on the worms until all the baking soda is used up and the worm will stop wiggling. So depending on how much baking soda your worm had on it, will depend on how many times it moves around in your container. So that is it for our Monster Science Lab. We had our monster slime, and then we had our wiggle worms. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, you can pick up a kit to do this experiment at home with your family at the library starting Monday, July 13th, and while supplies last. You'll just go to either the children's desk or you can call the curbside delivery and we'll bring it out to your car for you. Just let them know you want the Monster Science Lab kit, okay? Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you next time.